I'm on Chapter 9B and Getting to Know ArcGIS. We're on page 299, and none of the hands-on stuff is on page 299, so let's go to page 300. We want to open the EX09B map, so let's do a file open. And I was in My Data last time, so I need to go up a level, and there's the 9B. Let's open that up. And I think this is basically what we had when we finished 9A. But this is the book's version of it instead of mine. And now we're on number 2. We want to open the properties of cities, population 100,000 plus. So that's the top layer here. So we want to open the properties. That's going to be a double click. And we want to go to the layer properties dialog box. Click the label. Layer properties, click the labels tab. And number 3, under other options, click placement properties. So here is other options down here, and placement properties will affect the placement of the label relative to the item that it's describing. So let's click on that. We want to make sure the placement tab is active. We've got 2 tabs here. And now let's turn to page 301, and on the placement properties dialog box, click change location to open the initial point placement dialog box. So right now it's putting the labels in the upper right hand corner relative to the item. This white box here is where the item would be, and that's our first choice. And then these two and these two are our second choice, and our last choice is to pick one of these options over here. And we're going to click change location now, and this will open the initial point placement dialog box. Now let's turn to page 302. On the initial point placement dialog box, scroll down and click the setting for prefer center left all allowed. So they've all got names, and let's start at the top here, and I'm looking for, now if all allowed, 0 means they're not allowed, so I'm going to look for something that doesn't have any zeros on it. So I can kind of scroll quickly through this beginning stuff here. And still got some zeros, still got some zeros. Okay, now we're getting down to, and we want prefer center left all allowed. Prefer center left all allowed is this one. So that means that our first choice is to the left of the item, and then the bottom and the top are equal, and our last choice would be to put it over here on the right. And click on OK. And click on OK to close the placement properties dialog box, and then click OK again to close the layer properties dialog box. And now if we look at our major cities, they are all on the left of the items. Now I said they're not all. Most of them are. Orlando here was moved. Why was it moved? Because it probably conflicted with these labels right here, and so we didn't want to write them on top of one another. Down here we got Miami, Hialeah, Hollywood, Pembroke Pines, and Coral Springs, Fort Lauderdale. We got 2 here that are real close together, and I'm not really sure which one is which, but one of them got pushed down here. And you know, it could be associated with either one of these, really. It's really hard to tell on this. Let's try zooming in. Whoops, I'm zooming out. Let's try zooming in. Okay, try it some more. Try it some more. I'm just pulling on my mouse wheel here. So it looks like Hollywood is this one, and Pembroke Pines is this one here. So Pembroke Pines was the one that got moved before. Now let's go back to full extent, and when we do, because the dots are going to be closer together now, the labels will be closer together, and so Pembroke Pines is going to have to get moved again so that it's over on the right side. Oh, it did not. It's down below. That's interesting. Now we are on the top of page 303. We want to open the properties of major rivers, so let's double click on major rivers here, and we're going to do labels again. So click on the Labels tab if it doesn't come up automatically, and accept the default style and click Apply. First we got to turn this on. That was number 7, and then accept the default style, which is whatever we get here, and click on Apply. And Apply will apply it without closing our Layer Properties dialog box. So if I drag that out of the way, well, you know what? I think what happened is, let me try this. It's not going to let me apply it again. Well, let's click on OK here and see what happens. Okay, there we go. Not sure what the deal was with the delay on that. Notice Florida got moved over a little bit here. This should kind of match what's on the bottom of page 302 in your book. And now we're on number 9 on page 303. On the Layer Properties dialog box, well, I closed this because I wanted to see everything here. And you can see the names of the rivers are all going to be horizontal, and they're going to cross the river. These really straight rivers down here you can see are not really rivers, but those are canals. But they're still bodies of water that kind of behave a lot like rivers do, so they're considered rivers on the map. Now, I want to go to Major Rivers and double click, and on the Label tab, let me see, I want to click on Placement Properties, which is down here again. Now on the Placement tab, under Line Settings, that's this box that goes from here. It looks like it goes all the way down and over to here. On the Placement tab, I want to click the Curved option. So let's click on Curved here, and make sure the Remove Duplicate Labels option is selected, which is down here. And then let's click on OK. And click on OK one more time. I'm on page 304 now. And now if we take a look at the labels for the rivers, they were all horizontal before. And I'm not sure if this is an improvement or not. Now they kind of go along the river itself. Let's see what happens if we zoom in on this. We might get a little bit of improvement if we do. And it doesn't really look like we are. Most of these are like overlapping the river or the canal itself. So let's try something. Let's double click on this. And let's go to Placement Properties here. And let's try above, and let's see what that does. I'm not actually sure, but I don't think I've used that one before, but let's click on OK, and let's click on OK. And now, oh, I like that a lot better. These are not right on the line. They are above the line, which makes it easier to see. We still kind of have some problems over here with this river. But if I go to the full extent here and take a look at it now, not too bad. It looks like I lost a couple of labels here. I'm not sure what happened to those. Maybe I need to zoom in a little bit. Let's try zooming in. And whoops, it's got to redraw again. And yeah, now there is a river for the Calusa something river. Okay, so I like that a little better than what they actually did in the book. Now we're on number 11 on page 304. Turn on the Labeling Toolbar. Okay, and I've already got that on. If you want to see it otherwise, go to Customize here and go to Toolbars and look at all the toolbars. And what we want is the Labeling Toolbar, and that will give us these options right here. Those icons are almost meaningless to me. I guess that's a tag in the background. And then in the foreground, looks like we got some arrows here, a little dialog box or something. Looks like there's a little lock there. That looks like a pause button, and that looks like a delete button. But it's not. It's view the unplaced ones. Okay. Now we're on page 305, number 12. On the labeling toolbar, so this is our labeling toolbar, click the label priority ranking button. And that's the one with the little arrows right here. If you pause, it'll say label priority ranking. And click on that. And now we want to click on major rivers here. And we want to move it to the bottom, not just down one, but all the way to the bottom. So click on the bottom button. Now we're on page 305, number 14. It says move the label property ranking dialog box out of the way. So let's move it out of the way here. And, and click apply. So I need to be on the full extent here probably. Let me click on OK, and let's go back to the full extent to see what it's going to look like the way it is in the book. And it looks like this label is not shown now. I don't know if there's one on this one before. Here is a river, here is a river, and here's a canal. It does have a label, but it was not it's not being shown right now. Now let's go to page 306. Click OK to close the label priority ranking dialog box, which I've already done. And now let's go to page 307. Open the properties of major rivers. So let's double click on major rivers here. On the labels tab under the other options, click scale range. Okay, and on the scale range dialog box, click the don't show labels when zoomed option, and in the out beyond text box type 1 to 1,000,000. So let's go don't show labels when zoomed out beyond, and 1 to 1,000,000 is actually a common one, so that's on the list. And click OK to close the scale range. So here's the scale range. Click on OK. And then OK again to close the layer properties dialog box. And now we're on the top of page 308. On the menu bar, click bookmarks canals to see the scale dependent labels. So we've got a bookmark here that they've already created for us called canals, and I'm guessing it's going to zoom in on this area right here. And you know, that might be more than one, zoomed in more than 1 to 1,000,000. Let's go back to full extent here. Okay, so we got a bookmark called canals, and when we zoom in on that now, my scale is 1 to 636,000, so that's below 1 in 1,000,000. We're zoomed in beyond 1 in 1,000,000, and those are the names of the canals. Zoom to the full extent. I'm on number 19 now. We want to zoom to the full extent of the map, and close the labeling toolbar right there. And if you want to save your work, rename your map document. We don't need to rename it because we're going to put it in an empty folder. So let's do a save as. And we're going to put that in my data for chapter 9 and click on save. And that takes us to the end of chapter 9, exercise 9B.